researchers. Like most paranormal enthusiasts, they love to investigate notorious locations that we have all heard about. However, finding those hidden gems and locations that have yet to be researched and explored is what they thrive upon. So who we have with us today is Cris August, and he is the owner and founder?
That's right.
Owner and founder of Orange County Ghost and Legends.
That's correct.
Okay, so Cris, first off, how did you get into paranormal investigation?
God, isn't that the ultimate question? I mean, in a way, it was kind of in the middle, shall I say, it came out of nowhere. But, oddly enough, I never had any experiences as a kid. It wasn't something that I encountered growing up, but it was something I was just deathly afraid of.
Yeah, of the unknown, of the supernatural.
Exactly. Be that ghosts, be it aliens, Bigfoot, or any monsters lurking in the dark. It terrified me, and I always identified the movie. I don't know if you guys have seen it, Fire in the Sky in the 90s.
Yes.
Well, no, Fire in the Sky wasn't the Spielberg one. I think
it's the one where the guy got abducted.
Yeah, the guy that got abducted in somewhere in Arizona. Anyway, that movie terrified me, and I remember always sleeping with my blinds closed or the curtains drawn because I was just waiting for that beam of light to come in, beam me up into the sky through my window. So, and of course, I also credit Unsolved Mysteries, which I'm sure, that creepy theme music, which still kind of gives me anxiety to hear that music to this day. But
now, okay. So you grew up and you had a fear of the unknown.
Absolutely.
Which most kids, most people, and I mean, I think we all kind of have a fear of the unknown. But did you ever have any supernatural or unexplainable or paranormal experiences before you started all this? Growing up, did you ever have any like unexplainable paranormal activity that happened to you in your life growing up?
No, I didn't, but it was just definitely something I was intrigued in and really fascinated in. And it really wasn't until my early 20s where something happened to me, and it actually happened in threes. And what initially started it was a visit to the Queen Mary. I'm sure everybody knows.
Okay, yeah, very worldwide known haunted location.
Absolutely. So Queen Mary, I went. It was something I did with my sisters. Just it was one of their own ghost walk nights, and it was something that was after hours, and we just did it for fun, and it was great. But I noticed that after this ship walk thing that we did, I started experiencing weird things at home, be it a shadow figure. I was in Joshua Tree, and I had something rush up to my ear and whisper in my ear. And then another shadow apparition that I saw in a condo down in San Diego. We were staying down there just for a weekend getaway. And I still see the visual of that person kind of hanging out of the door frame, like they were using their fingers to hold onto the door and hang out, looking at you through the hall. And I remember the visual of it, and I just remember running to get any light switch that I can find. And the person I was with at that time, I was yelling, were you just in the hallway? And she's all the way in the back room, and she says, I don't have any idea what you're talking about. And so anyway, long story short, I ended up going back to the Queen Mary. I brought some friends and said, hey, you guys got to check this out. This is really cool. And the psychic medium that was there at the time, I had asked her, and this is before I knew anything about this subject and this topic. I was very naive. I didn't understand anything. And I said, is it possible that you can take something home with you? And she said, sure, absolutely. It doesn't happen often, but it happens. And I said, look, I've had these weird things that have been happening to me, and whatever it is, I want to bring it back. And so it was funny, but at the same time, it wasn't funny. So after that incident, it stopped. Everything stopped. And I didn't have any weird experiences. And I'd say about 6 months later, I went back to the Queen Mary and I took something home because another series of incidents that happened in threes took place again. I don't know what the significance of the number 3 is or why it's in threes, but that was really the catalyst to what got me to jump into this field.
Now, with what you do, I mean, you're not just a guy that says, "Oh, I'm a ghost hunter." I mean, you actually have a bachelor's degree for the study of metaphysical humanistic science.
Yeah, this is
this is something that you've dedicated your life to.
I definitely am very invested. What started, and I really viewed it as a hobby in the beginning, and didn't take it all too seriously. But as we started getting into these places that nobody has ever investigated before, I had some pretty profound experiences, and you were starting to get more questions than answers. And unfortunately, in this field, you're constantly scratching your head and trying to solve something that you may never solve. And you may just end up running in circles with it. But it's those moments where you were just left completely baffled, where you've gone down the logical explanations and you were just left scratching your head. Those are the moments that I live for. Because let's face it, and I consider myself very logical and analytical, and I'm probably the biggest skeptic of everyone amongst our team, especially. Most things can be explained. Absolutely. Right. They can be explained. There's a logical answer. There's a natural explanation. But those moments where you are just,
cannot explain,
your mind is blown and you'll never forget it. I live for those moments.
Now, I was going to ask you, are you a skeptic by nature? And you just kind of clarified that you are skeptical by nature. So I know that there's people that have experiences in their lives that they can't explain, and they reach out to guys like you to come and explain it. Now, before we get into the paranormal, the unexplainable that you've experienced, let's talk about what is the ratio of people that are calling you and saying, "Hey, lights are going off and on in my house, doors are slamming." But out of the people that call you with paranormal activity, what percentage do you think is explainable? Just ballpark it. I mean, this isn't a grand jury testimony.
Probably at least 90%.
90%.
So the majority.
So the majority of the people out there are thinking, "Oh, my house is haunted," or my dead grandmother's talking to me, and that kind of stuff. A majority of those people, 90% of the cases that you come across, are explainable.
Yes. Now, this is based on our investigations, and I always say that just because it didn't happen that we were investigating doesn't mean it's not happening.
Right.
And a lot of this is based on personal experience. If somebody's standing in their kitchen and then all of a sudden they're alone, nobody else is in the house, and their cabinets are slamming and doors are opening and closing, and that's something where you pretty much peed yourself. It was terrifying. But try explaining that to somebody, and they're going to tell you you're absolutely insane. But nobody could take that away from you because it was yours. And just because we weren't there doesn't mean it didn't happen. But that's what sucks about it, is you really need somebody to help validate you or to be present to back you up. And unfortunately, that's not always the case. You don't always have another witness to vouch for what happened. But we have to carefully decide what cases we're going to investigate. And it's really important that those who do contact us actually do their homework, because we're putting in our time and our effort to go out to these places, and we want to see if they can on their own find a logical answer before we haul ourselves.
So what is your criteria? Like, I give you a phone call and I said, I don't know what's going on in my house, but all I know is that the lights are turning off and on, and the cupboards in my kitchen are slamming in the middle of the night. Like, what is your criteria before you even take a job or a mission to go investigate?
Fair question. The first thing we'll ask them to do is to journal, log it's happening.
What's going on?
When is it happening? What are you doing when it's happening? Are you noticing any patterns? Time of day, time of year, who's in the home? What are the various circumstances that could be contributing to this? Could if they're seeing shadows on their wall, in the middle of the night, well, have they been leaving their curtains open and there's a car that drives by at the same time every night because John down the street drives home late, and at the same time every night he's got the headlights and there's a shadow reflection on the wall. So it seems crazy, but
journaling.
Yeah.
Journaling. Track it down and log it and see what's going on. What times is it happening? Exactly. So you have something to go off of.
Exactly. And in my opinion, if somebody doesn't want to take the time to journal, and
then they're
log
not
it,
worth your time at all.
you're not worth our time.
But what if it's like a one-time thing?
Well,
You know what I'm saying? Like, do you think a spirit can just pass through that area? Like, they're not staying, they're just passing through?
Like a one-off supernatural
like a one-off
event.
supernatural event?
Sure. I mean, that happens.
Mhm.
Is it worthy of investigating the whole home? We're looking for patterns. We're
Right.
looking, that's
Something
what we're looking for.
repeatable.
Exactly.
So, but okay, so there could be a lot of instances out there where it is a one-off event that's not replicatable. It happened one time, and that doesn't necessarily discredit that event. But if it's not happening on a routine basis, I mean, there's not really much there to investigate.
Exactly. And as you mentioned, it ideally, if it's repeatable, we can go in there and try to gather some evidence. If it was a one-off, and as I mentioned before, it could have been a personal experience, and we can't tell anybody that didn't happen, and maybe it did. And if it's something that continues to bother people, there's something slamming my cabinets every night, my kids aren't sleeping, they're terrified to go to bed, we really need to do something about this. And they're taking the time to do their homework. Yeah, we're happy to invest in that and to help people and educate them.
Okay, so we're talking about haunts. Okay, we're talking about paranormal, like a unexplainable spiritual force. When it comes to like things like demon possession, do you believe in demon possession?
It's funny that you asked that. To be honest, I'm skeptical.
Mm-hmm.
But I haven't had a demon possess me. So,
okay. Yeah. Well, fair enough.
I don't know. I'm skeptical of things that have physical interaction. Now what I'm talking about is scratching and whatnot. I think there's, people can feel a sensation. I think there's possibility for that. But I've been doing this a while now, and we've been in some pretty, I'm going to sound very Orange County,
Go ahead.
Some very gnarly places.
Uh-huh.
And I think ghosts get a bad rap. I think they're just misunderstood. We're scared of things that we don't understand.
Right.
And I personally haven't encountered anything where I feel that I'm being threatened. Yeah. Granted, it scares the crap out of you. If you see something that's not supposed to be there, if you're hearing something, a disembodied sound or a voice, that's terrifying, but doesn't mean it's bad. It just means it's scary because it's unexplainable. But as far as possessions, I guess I can say I'm on the fence, but I'm leaning towards being very skeptical.
Now, have you come across situations where people have said that they've been touched or harmed or scratched or bitten?
All the time. And we've even had people on tours. One of our locations, Black Star Canyon, is very notorious in Orange County. I don't know if you've heard of it. But that's a common place where people have been scratched. And there was a guy in our group that I was present for who had 3 lines down his forearm. But
getting scratched.
Yeah. But my
now what is now Black Star Canyon? Describe that to the listeners. But what is Black Star Canyon?
So Black Star Canyon is located in Silverado Canyon. I don't know if anyone's familiar with Cook's Corner.
I've been to Cook's Corner. Yes,
it's down that way. The Santa Ana Mountains. It's part of the Cleveland National Forest, and it's probably one of Orange County's most notorious haunted locations.
And why is that? What happened there? What is the significance of this particular location?
There's a lot of folklore there, and a lot of what happens at Black Star, we like to say it's the people who are scarier than the ghosts. I'd see a ghost any day compared to some of the characters that find their way out in Black Star Canyon. But just legends of satanic rituals and sacrifices in the canyon.
And have you found any of that to be true? No. It's total just legend and folklore but whatever, it gives this place a bad rap.
Now, don't get me wrong. There have absolutely been things that have happened as far as crimes over the years. I mean, People do things, and that can be anywhere in the world, parks and neighborhoods and cities and towns. So things have happened over the years. There have been crimes that have been committed, but it's like a game of telephone. It's a start of a story that is just twisted into something 10 times bigger than it really is or was. Now, there are some truths to some of the legends, and on our tours, we talk to people and tell them, this is what's bogus. There is some truth to this story. But whatever you've heard, I like to tell people, forget all about it.
Mhm.
You're going to erase that for tonight, because what happens here and what we've encountered has absolutely nothing to do with what you've heard about this place. And that's due to years of being out there and regularly investigating this location, collecting data, collecting information. And it's a grab bag.
Now, you're saying that's one of the most haunted locations, or allegedly haunted locations, in the Orange County, and you've been out there for years. Now, in your personal experience of going out there, have you seen anything unexplainable? Well, you said scratches and stuff. People have shown up with scratches.
I have. And it is a location where I've had probably one of my most significant experiences. And the Travel Channel did a show called Mysteries of the Outdoors, and it was originally called Mysteries of the National Parks.
Mm-hmm.
And they were researching strange and bizarre occurrences in the Cleveland National Forest. So they ended up calling us because essentially, if you look up Black Star Canyon, we're going to pop up because we've been out there for so long.
Yeah.
So they called us and they said, hey, we're doing this show. We're researching Cleveland National Forest, and everything keeps coming right back to Black Star Canyon. What in the world is going on out there? I said, where do I start? What do you want to know? So what was supposed to be just about a 10, 15-minute segment in a show ended up turning into its own episode because there were just so many crazy things to tell. So we did this episode with them, and it was really cool that we were able to explain some of these theories that we have out there. And they utilized some of those theories in the episode. But people come out there, if you ask a lot of the teenagers that come out, they're all linking arms. They're all scared. And some of the guys are bringing bats, and they think that they're pretty tough.
Gonna swing at the cold air. That encapsulates it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
The bat is exactly what I go for if I'm battling a ghost. Okay.
I'm always particularly amused of seeing people like that because they're usually the scaredest people. The slightest rustle in the bush, they're the ones that are hauling it. But if you ask any kid or teenager that walks out there, they're gonna the first thing they're gonna say is the infamous school bus that caught on fire with all the children aboard, and you hear the harrowing screams of the kids through the canyon. So I won't reveal the extent of that story, but it is one of the most popular legends in Black Star Canyon.
So that.
Oh yeah. If there was an incident where a bus actually burned up at the Black Canyon, they're going to take. It's not going to be left out there. Yeah,
exactly.
So it's just basically an abandoned bus, and in human nature, we see something that could be creepy, and we make up creepy stories, and just make it all way more than what actually happened.
You got it exactly.
So a lot of it comes down to just urban legend.
Yeah,
urban legend. Yeah,
urban legend, and they're fun. Let's face it. I mean, who doesn't like a good ghost story? A good legend and an urban legend. And let people have that. We let them enjoy the legend, but all right, we're done with that. Let's get to the real stuff. What's really happening out here? So that's kind of the difference in what we offer for our tours and our experiences, is that we're not here to convince anybody of anything. Either way, we don't want you to believe or disbelieve. What we want you to do is use your brain, use logic, but we are very open-minded to possibilities, and we want people to be open-minded as well. But we're not theatrical. We're not in costumes. We're not,
more matter of a fact. Spadra Cemetery, Spadra.
Heard of it?
But that's not a place that you regularly investigate.
No, we have not done that one.
Okay, and that's just a cemetery somewhere outside of Pomona. I guess it's not really OC, so that'd be.
I've heard of it. Well, we're not confined to Orange County. We do things in Orange County. We do things in San Diego, LA, Nevada, and Arizona. So we're
okay. So I mean, you guys are obviously. Hold on. What do you have to say there, Jeffrey? Hold on. Was it?
Have you been to the site over here in Lido Creek where the old railroad crossing is at?
I have not.
Is that one of those gravity spots where your car rolls the wrong way and you put baby powder on the back and there's babies pushing you? One of those
Well,
gravity hills?
we actually did it when I was a teenager, and we had cleaned up the back of the the car that we rolled on, and it did roll up
It did roll
other
uphill.
way. But when we did go, we went into the field to see, and it is
Talking to your mic, Jeff. You're talking with your hands, not the mic.
we went into the field, and it does look like an optical illusion. But there was handprints on the back of the vehicle that we were on. So that's one of the things that I always ask anyone that does any of the paranormal if they've ever been there.
Okay. But let me get back to Chris and let me say this. So you've been around this a lot, and you've been going to locations that are considered to be paranormal activity, paranormal stuff going on. And you said in Black Star Canyon, you've had people that have shown up with scratch marks and stuff like that. What are some of the other locations that Orange County Paranormal and Legends? What are some of the other locations in OC that you guys go to?
San Juan Capistrano is our bread and butter down there. We love San Juan Capistrano.
Why San Juan Capistrano? What's going on in San Juan Capistrano?
Well, if anybody's been there, it's the home to the oldest occupied neighborhood in California. So it's essentially the birthplace of Orange County.
Okay.
So we're going all the way back to the 1700s, and it's a really cool little town right next to the railroad tracks. It's incredible, but when you look at it, you're thinking this is a cool, lively town. There's a bunch of restaurants. It's very modernized, but it still has that old
feel,
historic feeling. Yeah. It's really cool, but there's noise. There's planes, trains, automobiles. There's drunk karaoke across the street. There's a lot of life, no pun intended, in this town. But I always say if we could shut off San Juan Capistrano for just 1 minute, the things that we have picked up in the different buildings that we've investigated in San Juan, we have some of our best audio evidence that we've ever obtained in San Juan.
In San Juan.
Yep.
And okay, let me talk about that for a second. So in San Juan, so yeah, how do you investigate? What are some of the tools of your trade?
Well, I think it depends on who you talk to. Some people are very electronic and gadget oriented. I would say the most reliable piece of equipment that we're consistently referencing is audio. And that's using a digital audio recorder. Some people still use the old school cassette tape, and they
would be more cassette tape would be more susceptible. That word.
Susceptible.
That one, it would be more susceptible to magnetic because that's the way that it records. But digital audio, not so much to just magnetic pulses. And okay. So let's talk about you and let's talk about in San Juan Capistrano. You go out there and you have a digital recorder and some type of microphone. And what is some of the evidence that you picked up on those recorders?
Well, the thing is when you're using audio is we have to try to obtain as much of a controlled environment as we can. So as I mentioned with San Juan, you have all this noise. You have noise contamination. So
my mic all the way till 2 a.m. in the morning. Yeah. So
yes. So we want to try to obtain the best environment where it's the quietest. You literally have a train track right there, which I'll get to that in a second. Don't let me forget to talk about the train. But it's a common question that people ask. Why in the heck do you always have to investigate at night? Why does it have to be dark? Well, ghosts don't discriminate between night and day. They really don't care. But at night, our senses are heightened. That's when we get the most quiet. In the daytime, our faces are on our phones. Nobody's paying attention.
And at night, our vision's impaired. So we're more aware of our surroundings by what we hear, what we feel.
Yep.
And it's funny because you were talking early on and you were talking about when you were a kid getting scared and trying to find the light switch. And why is it by human nature that whenever something fucked up happens, paranormal, the first thing we want is light.
Light's
So you
comfort.
can see.
Yeah.
It's a-
Well,
it's-
I guess so.
Let's see.
Strictly, strictly defense.
Yeah,
But what if it happens during the day? Then there's light.
Then it's
Shit's
100
still
times.
just 100,000% even more scarier.
Yes, and you know it's real.
but also as
If it happens
kids,
in the daytime,
we're predisposed to think that bad things happen in the night. So when it's
That's
dark
true.
out,
It's how we
you're kind of
raised.
you're predisposed to that.
I'm pretty
That's true.
sure that was started by the KKK. So
Okay, all right. So back to San Juan Capistrano. We'll get to the railroad in just a second. But in San Juan Capistrano, you're going out there with a digital recorder. And what are some of the things that you have captured on that digital recorder?
Well, we're hearing voices that sound like a conversation. And as I mentioned, we got to be so controlled that we have to identify every single sound and noise that we make, so that person who's listening later is not confusing a stomach growl for some demonic entity trying to talk to you through the audio. Somebody's just hungry. They're hungry for a burrito. But the voices, and you don't understand it until it happens, until you were there during an investigation.
Now, do you ever hear these voices? Like, you're there, you hear the voice and you capture the voice, or is it only showing up on the recorder?
Sometimes. So it can be both.
It can be both.
It can be both. And it's wild when you hear it in the moment and then it translates through the audio. But I think it's even more disturbing when you hear it in real time, but it doesn't come through on the audio, or vice versa. It comes through on the audio.
You don't hear it. Yeah.
And you don't hear it. Or you're
Yeah.
thinking, holy cow, how did I not catch that? That
Right.
was so loud. We're acknowledging clearing our throat or a stomach growl, and we did not acknowledge this loud voice that just came through on the audio. And that's, you don't understand it until you were there to experience that and you hear it play back. It's pretty amazing.
And in these conversations that you've captured in these paranormal activities, like, what's your most memorable thing that you captured? Is it just like a wailing? Is it a baby crying? Is it an actual conversation? Is it somebody calling you guys out directly? I mean, what kind of audio are you capturing?
It can be anything from what sounds like somebody having a conversation over you.
About you, like referencing you being there in the situation that they're at.
It could be about you. It can be something entirely random. One of my favorites is the spirits in this particular location, which was the Camino Real Playhouse in San Juan Capistrano. It's one of our favorites. We've captured the most insane audio clips in that theater. But on multiple occasions, we had a spirit come through, or something came through on the audio that sounded like it was mocking me. And I'll be the first to say that, I'll use a lot of colorful language when I'm startled, and I'll drop the F-bomb over and over, and I'll,
of course,
whatever my natural reaction is. That's how you know I'm scared, is when I say Jesus Christ,
or fuck,
or that. Yeah.
Oh fuck, a ghost just grabbed my dick. Yeah, okay, I got you.
Yeah. So what came through and transpired through this audio was when I said Jesus Christ, there was a voice that came through that was a distorted Jesus Christ right after I said
mimicking
me. And that happened a couple times. And we kind of we theorize in the playhouse that whatever's there is pleasant, and we're not threatened by it. But you imagine the people that have come through the playhouse, actors, comedians, the kind of personalities that you would have there. And is it possible that, they're very intelligent, they're making their presence known, maybe they're trying to identify themselves with somebody else in the theater? But we have a running theory that playhouses, and I'm talking theatrical, you're not your movie theater, but
theatrical playhouse, that they're what we call very audio heavy. So not so much visual, not a lot of seeing apparitions or full-bodied apparitions, but we would leave those investigations feeling kind of like, man, this was a bust. Nothing happened. It was just quiet.
and we don't understand it. And then we would go back and we would listen to all the audio, and there was just chatter everywhere
Yeah.
that we had no idea was happening.
So you couldn't hear it in the moment, but it was happening.
Okay, let me ask you this, and because you're around the paranormal activity and you've been around this, you've seen things that are unexplainable. You've recorded audio of things that are unexplainable. Let me ask you this: what is your belief? Because apparently this consumes your life, the supernatural, things we can't explain. So, in your best opinion, like when we go into God and the devil or evil and good or whatever, but what happens to us after we die? In your best opinion, I know it's just an opinion, but
Of course,
it's close to your heart. What do you believe?
you know, I think our energy may stay here once our souls leave our vessel, which is our body.
Souls also, that could be combined with spirit.
Sure.
Spirits.
Yeah.
Spirit, soul.
Yes. So if it's anybody's guess as far as, do spirits choose to stay? Do they choose to want to go? Are they stuck? I think that's a common perception, is that they're stuck here. What if they want to be here? I believe that there are elements of us that stay behind, whether that's, if we can kind of check in and out from heaven or whatever, if it's you're either in or you're out, or if it's kind of come and go as you please. But I think there is absolutely something to this, or I wouldn't be doing it, as skeptical as I may be.
Okay, so let's say Cris, you die. What do you expect that's going to happen?
I don't know. Isn't that the ultimate question? Is there the white light? Do we go to the light? I would like to believe that we go somewhere good. I'm not sure if I really believe in the heaven and hell.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I believe in that black and white.
Mm-hmm.
But that could be. I'm not a religious person. I'm spiritual, but I've never subscribed to any particular religion.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very open-minded to any possibility, but I don't necessarily think that it's black and white. And I think, I think just we will have remnants of ourselves. Our energy will stay behind and be that residual, which is like when people see like a repeat or a replay of just like somebody's routine. Maybe grandma hangs out in the kitchen and you see her every week. She's doing the same old thing as she always does.
Now, obviously, this doesn't happen for everybody.
No.
Because there's been a lot of people that have died in our world.
Exactly. And
so if everybody that died in our world came back and did some of these random repeats, like grandma in the kitchen and stuff like that, dude, everybody would be seeing ghosts or apparitions all the time.
Right.
So what makes these apparitions that we can see, like, why are they so special? Why are they back here? Why is it not everybody? Why just these select people?
Well, I think depending on who you talk to, and especially if you talk to mediums or anyone who allegedly can speak to the other side, is it possible? They have the common belief that there's unfinished business, that they're not done here. They have something that they need to stay behind for. Maybe they're checking on someone.
A reason. Do you think it's the apparition's choice? Like something possessed them so hard, like I don't know, grandma needs to make her famous oatmeal cookies and she never got to it, so she keeps going back to the kitchen every week. No, but seriously, do you think it's the apparition's choice, or who's making that call where they get to come back?
Well, that's something that's I mentioned residual energy.
Residual energy.
Residual, and it can also be considered the stone tape theory, which is a replay. So the question is that is this residual energy just an imprint, or is this? And when I say residual, think of like a movie just replaying. It's a scene that repeats.
Yeah. And
it's believed that the spirit or that energy doesn't see us. They are not aware that we are there, and we aren't necessarily aware that they are there. However, that lucky person, whoever it may be, may just catch a glimpse of that repeat energy and be lucky. That's why people can describe someone, wearing a cowboy vest and cowboy boots, and they'll describe the detail. It's very real, like you and I, but it's just a brief glimpse, and that's it. But it's a replay.
Now, we focused on the audio that you've heard and the audio voices, etc. But what have you seen with your eyes?
I have seen some apparitions, and I mentioned before I got into this, I saw the shadow in the hallway.
Uh-huh.
I saw a shadow in my bedroom. I've seen something at Black Star Canyon that, and I'm always hesitant to tell the story because my logical self always thinks this is insane. I can't.
I want to hear it. I want to hear it. Tom, do you want to hear it?
Hell yeah, we want to hear it.
Yeah, we want to hear it.
It definitely takes the position of the most, I guess, one of the most significant experiences that has ever happened to me, that as skeptical as I am, unless I was completely delusional, which, hey, that's absolutely possible. Maybe I was losing my mind. Maybe I watched too many scary movies the night before. I don't know. That's my logic coming through. But a particular evening that I was leading a tour, this was approximately, it's been about 4 to 5 years now.
And so you're there working, you're leading a tour of people that are out on a paranormal field trip,
Exactly.
investigation on a tour.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're totally business minded. You're there and you're just leading these people, telling them the stories of the location that you're at. And then what happened?
So we're walking along and there's a bend in the road. And I would say it's about 60 feet ahead from my visual perspective. There was a apparition of something in the middle of the road. It was crouched down, and I remember it taking 3 steps, and it disappeared off into the shadows. You couldn't see it from my perspective, but it just disappeared into the dark. Now, when I say this, it doesn't sound like much. However, there are distinct characteristics that stood out to me that are just ingrained into my brain that I've never forgotten it. And what I witnessed are, this thing had long, narrow arms, long, narrow legs. It was crouched like it could walk on all fours.
Mm-hmm.
And it had a grayish hue to it. It wasn't a glow. You think glow, you think something bright. This was a hue. It was just a very soft gray. I didn't see a face. I only saw a side profile.
And 3 steps and it was gone.
3 steps into the dark. Now, in this moment, this is what I call the flight attendant effect. And in the moment, I didn't tell the group what happened. I was stunned. I kind of froze, and I was just stuck. I was
Trying to process
what just happened. And I remember there was a guy to the right of me, and he was kind of looking at me and nudging me, and what did you see? And I didn't say anything. And my theory is when you're terrified of flying, and you're nervous and you're having anxiety, and who are you going to look to for comfort?
You're going to look to the pilot, the tour guy.
You can't see the pilot, but who are you looking to
flight
for comfort?
attendant.
The flight attendants, right? So in that moment, I didn't want to panic, and I didn't want to lose my shit because, people are looking to me to kind of gauge if they should be scared or not.
Right.
So I didn't react other than just kind of being stunned. I just kind of, stammered over my words and moved forward. So if it weren't for the very next night, and I'm sorry, not the next night, the next weekend, I would have completely erased this incident from my brain. And the following weekend, we did what we call an Into the Depths walk, where we take a small group deeper into the canyon. Most people can't go more than an hour and a half, 2 years before they start complaining about the bathroom and their feet hurt. So we do an
Like
extended
Steph.
right?
Hey,
I don't
you gotta
know,
go,
Steph.
you gotta go.
Is that common? I don't know.
Yeah, only when I have good beer.
Okay.
So the very next weekend, we had that small group, and a similar bend. It was a darker area, which is a hotbed of weird things. Just this particular threshold that we cross is where things get bizarre. So we reached that point, and I looked around the bend, and I froze. But this time, what I witnessed, now hear me out. You can judge, but just judge me later. What I saw was this figure that was standing upright, and it had the same distinctive characteristics.
Like the slender figure that you saw before that was
Very
crouched
similar.
down.
Yes.
Almost
but
like the Slenderman type folklore that has creeped around.
not quite as tall, but the slimming body structure is similar. But there were no facial features. I didn't see any facial features, and this one had a grayish hue to it. Not
The
a glow.
same as what you saw before.
Well, actually, the one before, this one had a gray, but the one before, did I say that one was gray? If I did, this one was green. It was a greenish hue. The second one was the gray.
Okay. All right.
So this one had the same long arms, the
Mhm.
same long legs, but it was upright. So it wasn't crouched. It was a different posture. But oddly enough, I felt kind of peaceful.
Peaceful.
Yeah. And
did you feel at the same peacefulness the first time you saw the crouch
no.
one?
No, the first one scared the crap out
Was
of me.
straight up fear.
Straight up fear.
The second one was more peaceful.
Yes.
Okay.
But what's weird, remember I mentioned the person who had the 3 scratches up their arm. This
Right.
is where that story ties in.
Ooh.
So within about 20 seconds, mind you, the people in this group had no idea what happened the weekend before. I didn't even tell my team because I just thought I was delusional.
Mhm.
I'm just kind of chalking it up to I was just seeing things. So when I witnessed the second, whatever this thing was, we call him Mr. Gray,
Mhm.
and I stopped, and I remember I was stammering over my words. I really didn't know what to say. Within that
Mhm.
20-second period, there was another guy in the group who was wearing those long Under Armour sleeves,
Yeah.
and he starts complaining that he's feeling a burn
A
on his
burn.
arm. And lo and behold, he pulls up the sleeve on his arm,
And there's scratch marks.
and there are three lines going up and or down his arm, and you could see little remnants of blood, little
Ooh.
remnants. So
That's a pretty intense physical contact.
yes. Now
But you were at peace.
exactly. There's
But
the irony.
Were you at peace because you had seen it before? So you kind of were like, oh no, this is real. I have seen this before. So you weren't shocked, maybe? I don't know.
That's a good
Yeah.
question. I think it was more whatever it was. The energy of it didn't make me feel threatened.
But the other guy probably felt threatened because he had
I-
scratches on his arms.
Well, that's the irony is why did he have a completely contradicting experience to what I felt? Now my skeptical mind, I don't know how I'm thinking, oh, come on. For all I know, you did that yourself, but who am I to judge him? I just saw this weird alien looking thing. And here I'm, thinking he
Right.
just
Now
scratched
my
himself.
question is, you had 2 incidents in the same general vicinity, back to back, a gray and a green,
Mhm.
slender type. Okay, now we're talking about apparitions earlier. Now apparitions take on the form of like a human apparition, but
Okay.
obviously your physical description of these 2 figures that you saw were not human.
I don't feel they were human.
So what do you think it was?
I struggle to have an answer for that.
But if you had to guess,
If I had to guess, it looked the second one looked more extraterrestrial in nature.
Mm,
The first one was more of a creature. And
okay,
if that second weekend hadn't happened, I would have erased the first one. But because it happened back to back in the same distinct characteristic, that has just thrown me for a loop, because I remember it like it was yesterday. I have never forgotten it. It has never happened since. It was just those 2 back-to-back weekends, and God, it scared the crap out of me. But the second one, I just had a calming feeling in the sense that I didn't feel like I needed to run or that I was in danger, if that makes sense. So I just kind of felt, But I just, when you see things, it feels like so much time has passed, but it was really a split second. And so it just seemed like it's slow motion in my brain. So, I tell the story and I say, look, I don't know what this was. Was this an alien? Was this a creature? Was I just seeing things? Anything is possible. I can't rule out anything, but it is something I will absolutely never forget.
Now, Eric, you have a question?
I do have a question. Sure. So in your experience, right? So it's something, so you have this, whatever it is, right? A spiritual, energetic being, it's interacting with us. So we play on some energetic level, and that's a lot of energy to transfer something I can't see to something I can physically feel, and it breaks my skin. So is there like a trend or a pattern or a certain type of person or personality trait, or is there like something in common with people that really have that kind of physical, visceral experience versus someone like me who I can go out looking and try to seance and do a Ouija board and go to Haiti and do all these weird things, and it's really hard for me to get anything versus these people who like I was just there and I was wearing Under Armour and I got scratched. So the question is there like a certain trend within these people that have like that visceral experience?
Basically, like a certain trait of these individual people that are more susceptible to having these types of experiences is what I'm getting from that.
The people who are reporting these experiences have generally had life experiences of something paranormal in nature. That is common. It's not as common for somebody to report it who's never had anything happen to them. It has happened, but it's not nearly as common. Of course, some of the aspects, and for me, that's half of the fun of doing an investigation. I like to look at things from a psychological perspective. And we're looking at the background of people. Who are they? What do they do for a living? What's their history? And these are important questions to ask. And it's not to judge people or it's not to, criticize, but, what are they going through in their life? What, are they experiencing a lot of trauma? Those factors play in stress and certain scenarios where your brain does things. And we can't rule that out. Some people like attention, and some of my most favorite cases that we've ever done are the ones where I really get to kind of dissect the person, and I thrive on that. I love to observe the person, and I have a favorite case that it was a private home, and of course I'll never be able to disclose who they are or whatnot. It was a private case. But I can tell you that in my honest opinion and heart of hearts, I believe that case that I'm referring to was a total scam.
And why is that?
But, and before I say that, I will never tell them or admit that it was the best case I ever did.
Except here on Radio Underland, we're live.
So now Jake talked earlier in the show about like demonic possession, and you said that you're very skeptical of that. But now, and the question comes up a lot with people waking up at 3 o'clock, like 3 a.m.
The threes.
Is that something to do with the threes again?
Even Chris, you were talking about threes earlier. Do you think 3 a.m. plays into it?
Well, some people say it's 2 a.m. Some people say it's 3 a.m. It's that those early morning hours. We haven't had any.
Hour.
The witching hour.
Mm-hmm.
In my opinion, I think things happen during those hours because that's when we're at most calm. And that's when we're more in tune.
When our mind is open.
When things are just
There's a whole thing about that, the law of threes. The triangle and, the repetition between life, death, and the afterlife. And like there's like this whole I forget what the name of the book was that I read that was associated with some of the stuff that we're talking about.
You're referring to
About
numerology?
The law of threes. Yeah. Yeah. It was
Yeah.
super interesting.
That's a whole other field of exploration. I'm intrigued with numerology. It's anybody's guess the significance of my experiences and why they were in threes. I have no idea. Maybe it was just coincidence that they just happened I just happened to experience them in threes, and these are 6 months apart or whatnot. So there might be something to that. But as I mentioned with that private case, half of the fun for me was observing the scam. And he may have thought that he had us hook, line, and sinker, that we were drinking the Kool-Aid. But I just loved observing everything that he did. I loved observing those moments where I was onto him and he didn't realize that I was onto him. And let me put it this way. If you were given a piece of evidence where somebody said there's something in my room or my house, and they show you a video of, let's say, a lamp from one corner of the table being thrown off the table.
Okay.
They show you this video. First thing I'm going to ask is send me the video. I want to see it.
Right.
But they won't. They insist that they have full control. Well, I'll show you when you get here.
So it's almost like a tactic or a luring or a baiting.
Well, not even so much, but why? What are you trying to hide? I want to dissect the video. I want to look at it in our time. We want to sit with it. We need to, piece by piece, we need to look at it. But that's a red flag number one. You're not going to show us the footage, or at least we can't have possession of it. Okay, you know what? We're intrigued. Now you have our attention because we want to see this lamp being thrown off the table. But what was suspicious about it is if the camera's only filming the top of the table, we're missing the whole under the table, right?
Right.
So we don't know what's going on
underneath.
And, maybe it was just the angle that he caught it. And maybe it's, oh, sorry, I didn't.
And why was the camera on at that particular time and all kinds of crap?
Well, it was a phone camera. This person allegedly woke up in the early morning hours and saw or heard rattling on their desk
and started filming.
So anyway, I loved that investigation. Is my just complete favorite because I loved every second of dissecting that person. And I was on to him the whole time. And some people may have a very different opinion, the investigators that I was working with at the time. But
now, what do you think? What do you think drove him to do that?
Attention?
That sounds like something I do like when I'm 80. You're like bored at home and you call up the guys, the supernatural fucking inspector that's in your local, YouTube phone book or whatever the hell.
Now what I do see in the comments is somebody was saying that after their father in-law passed away, that they could still smell the cologne and the smoke of whatever they used to smoke in the living room. Is that a common kind of occurrence where people have smell sensory traces of somebody that was around?
It is. That's very common, especially if somebody, it tends to happen very soon after a passing. So there is a short span of, this happens a lot with family members. Maybe your uncle passed, your grandmother passed. And a lot of times, whoever it is seeking validation to just reassure you, I'm here. I'm going to make, we'll do whatever I need to do to get your attention. And a lot of times we tell people, just acknowledge it and say, thank you, grandma. I know you're here. Thank you. You can go.
Okay. So then that's what I was going to ask. Do you think that they come here's a story for you that freaks me the F out every time my mom talks about it. So one Mother's Day, she was really sad because none of her kids had called her.
Because she has horrible kids.
Yeah, we're horrible. So she was feeling sad that morning because we hadn't called.
Because she wakes up at 5 a.m. and nobody else in the right mind gets up till 9 a.m. on a Sunday. But go ahead.
Yeah. So she was just kind of doing laundry and doing things around the house, waiting for her kids to call her to tell her Happy Mother's Day.
Sulking.
And she said when she walked through the hallway to go to the laundry room, there was nothing. But when she came back, right by the hallway, there's like a little shelf where they put like their keys and their purse
And their shrines.
and their stuff. Not her shrine, but she puts her stuff there. And she always had like this glass vase that had like that fake water, but actually it was like glue, with flowers in it. And she said there was a flower on the floor. But the flower wasn't missing from the vase because there wasn't a hole where it would have been glued into. It was just another flower, but that it looked like it came from there. It was the same flower, but it was another one.
Huh. Okay. Yeah.
And she was like, maybe it was my mom telling me like, Happy Mother's Day. You're fine. Like, you're okay. The flowers still exist. Like, it's still there. There's
Really?
not a missing hole. But she said she felt at peace. She wasn't afraid. She's just like, that was just my mom coming in, telling me like, Happy Mother's Day. You're fine. Like, your kids will eventually call. She wasn't talking to anybody,
But that's what she felt.
She just
That
felt
was her interpretation.
That was her interpretation.
Sure.
Yeah, and she just felt at peace.
Yeah.
When she tells me that story, I'm like, oh hell no! Don't you ever do crap like that to me,
Yeah.
because that will freak me out. She's like, no, I just felt at peace.
She's just going to grab your toes in the middle of the night.
Yeah, she really will too.
Was that the one time? Was it a one-time occurrence?
One time.
One time.
Was that shortly after?
No, years
No?
later.
Years later.
Mhm.
Okay, and it's not unheard of that things happen later. It's most common that things will happen shortly after a passing. But there's also stories of spirits leaving pennies. Pennies are are common for some reason. I don't know what it is
Pennies?
about
I've never
spirits and
heard about
pennies.
that.
But a lot of people will find just random coins.
I
just
always get
popping up
pennies
on
in
the
my
floor.
shoe.
Penny's how you get to the other side of the river.
Well, maybe.
The river Styx,
Yeah, I
right?
don't
They
know.
used to put the pennies,
No,
the
but
coins
what
on
is
the
the
eyes.
what is the logic or the explanation of the penny syndrome?
No logic. There's no explanation. It's a bizarrely common report that people will find just coins. They'll go into the bathroom and then they'll walk out 5 minutes later and they're finding coins, thrown on the floor. You won't hear anything. My sister who's in Minnesota, she recently told me that she had a book that was thrown off her shelf. It was a Spanish book. and it
Did it say
We're
gooey
crazy.
or ways in it?
all right. It was a Spanish book that ended up opening to a certain page, and she keeps asking me why is it a Spanish book? Is it trying to tell me to brush up on my Spanish? Hell if I know. But and things that are being thrown off her refrigerator. She's finding stuff on the floor, and it's anybody's guess why a spirit is going to leave certain objects, but a lot of them may be of sentimental nature, so it might make sense to the person that's experiencing it. But it's spirits from the other side. In theory, especially family members who have passed, they will do something to seek your acknowledgement. And whatever I got to do, if I got to slam your cabinets, just tell me I'm here.
Acknowledge it.
Acknowledge it.
Like, do you think some people are more susceptible to that kind of stuff than others? Because, like, I think my mom is. I think my sister is.
Hold
I'm
on.
terrified.
Now, V, you have a story,
I'm terrified.
and I think I
of
know where you're
things.
going with this because you had a relative, a very close
I have
person.
lots of stories, but the most recent one, we lost our nephew
I'm sorry.
and he was murdered. And we had his ashes at our house right after the passing. And I'm very susceptible to energies. Not to be like, I'm not psychic or anything, but I feel energies.
Sure.
And I always have like Himalayan salt and amethyst in my windows to kind of keep it purified in my home. Anyways, we had his ashes in our house for a few months, maybe like 6 months or so, maybe a year. I don't know. Anyways, I noticed when I would clean the house, usually on Mondays I'm by myself, Stefan is at work, and I have these peacock feathers Actually, they were my great grandmother's. That's when you were talking about the smells. When my grandma passed, I smelled tea rose, which she wore the same week of her death. So that's hit me.
Yeah.
Anyways, my peacock feathers are facing a certain direction. They can't be turned like it's a vase, and they'd be turned the other way. And I'd ask Steph, like, did you move these? And he's like, why would I touch these? Another thing is, when he was with us, Steph went on a family trip to Fiji, and it was this warrior with a penis. We have in our, and when he saw it, he was just like playing with it and teasing Steph. Are you?
Did you ever
gay?"
play with it?
Just the tip. And anyways, he messed with it. And when I would be cleaning the house on my Mondays, I would notice that this Fiji doll, the warrior, would be faced a different direction. And I noticed it continuously. And then I started noticing heavily, and I would be like, I'm
and
not
he
tripping.
brought that to you from Fiji?
Steph brought
Steph
it.
did. Okay.
Yeah. Kevin just saw it and thought it was funny because it was a big dick.
Yeah, right.
And so, anyways, for months, I'd be like, and then finally one day I was just like, Kevin, I am cleaning. I need you to leave me alone right now.
Really?
And
You
actually,
said that?
I said this because I am aware that you're supposed to acknowledge them. Also, I had in my kitchen these hanging things, little decorative things, and one would be moving, no wind, nothing. And that's when I was like, I'm cleaning. I need you to leave me alone right now. And then it would be peaceful for like a couple weeks, and then it would start all over again. And then when his sister came in, got him,
his ashes,
gone.
his remains.
We haven't had anything
It
since.
left with his ashes.
Wow.
Steph, do
Nothing.
you
He thinks I'm crazy.
Steph, what do you think about what V is saying
Not
about
crazy. I just think there's logical, explanations to a lot of the issues that she was having.
Well, like
for
what? Like the
example-
Fiji doll's dick was magnetic and
Facing
it was
the
pointing true
opposite
north?
way.
It's sitting on top of the fish tank, and the
It does
fish
not
is
vibrate.
The fish is pretty volatile. He moves around a lot.
So you don't think anything of that had to do with your nephew Kevin? You think it was all explainable?
No,
No.
the vase where the
Peacocks.
peacock feathers are at is on top of a subwoofer for the surround
It wasn't
sound.
doing this before. We
The
lived there
surround
for
sound, the surround
5
sound for the
years.
television has a subwoofer, and this is where this.
Well, Steph,
Hey,
are you?
Susan.
I mean, have you ever experienced anything supernatural at all?
I'm super skeptical about it.
Yeah.
He never believes me.
You know what?
And that's okay. That's okay.
I try not to believe anything because I'm literally the girl that won't watch a scary movie. Everything terrifies me, legit. But my
Mhm.
mom and sister are super, like, all about it. Like, I always say, like, my grandma was a bruja and my sister is too, like, legit. Because they're just open-minded to everything.
Let me ask you, Chris, about this. Is there certain types of people that you think are more susceptible to?
We've probably asked that question like 3 times.
Oh, when I was pissing?
Oh, I was in the
Yeah.
bathroom.
So I got a follow-up question.
I was in
So,
the bathroom.
so when we acknowledge, right, then if the spirit's acknowledged, it's pacified, it can move forward, it can disconnect. So then what do we do about the theory, like within a lot of Latino cultures, we have the Day of the Dead coming up, or that is a direct and very powerful, very emotional acknowledgement, which I like the cultural aspect to it personally.
Yeah, I seen Coco.
Right, Coco, right? Coco. And then I really got into it, and I took the ancestry thing, and I'm looking at my past. Let me see the cultural norms. I kind of started buying into it a little bit, not 100%, but there is this, like, if I talk to my grandma, to her, no, yeah, our family really is acknowledging this. They're also susceptible to the same, like, oh yeah, I smelled, your mom sat at my foot, at the foot of my bed today. There's things like that, but there is acknowledgement and acceptance of the spirit. So, I mean, there's no like finite black and white, right? I agree to that. That's a whole different world. Maybe we don't quite understand, and we're limited in understanding, but acknowledgement really doesn't get rid of it either, clearly, because there's a whole like continents worth of cultures that literally acknowledge it.
Yeah, it's not a guaranteed solution. I mean,
Okay.
it depends on who it is. If we're theoretically assuming that there is a spirit there, who is the spirit? What do they want? I mean, we don't have those answers. Generally speaking, especially when we do private homes, the best solution that we have, because we're not going in there to cleanse or clear anything. We're not the church. We're, I feel very uncomfortable telling people that we're going to get rid of something. I've never told anyone that because I don't know if I have that ability, and I don't even know if that's possible. I have no idea. I am not going to tell you that. I think it's a big responsibility, and nobody who knows me has ever heard me say those words that we will get rid of something in your house. Our purpose is to go in there. Here's what we collected. There's a logical answer for A, B, and C. We weren't able to replicate, E. Is it paranormal? We don't know. You may be feeling uncomfortable over here because there's a lot of electrical EMF over here that commonly makes people feel very, anxiety ridden, very heavy and uncomfortable. And then we can give people advice. We have a medium on our team, a psychic medium. And her role is to also educate. And here's some things you can do. We're not telling you it's going to go away. If you are scared, try acknowledging, see if it stops. In most cases, people will come back and tell us, after I really kind of accepted ownership of my home and I took my home back, I feel a lot better and I'm not bothered by it. Some people accept it. They believe that there's, I don't have a demon in my house. I'm just going to deal with it and coexist. Education works wonders, and just to be a support for people that they're not crazy. Maybe they are.
Yeah.
Maybe they are. We all are, sure. Maybe there's some psychological things that are playing into it, stress in their lives, but we're not cleansing anything. We're not the Ghostbusters. We can't throw a device on the floor and just suck it all up.
Now you said that you don't know if you believe in the cleansing process. I mean, is there any situation that you've been in there where a place was definitely haunted with some paranormal activity, and they went to, like, I guess our rule of thumb would be like a Catholic priest type exorcism. Have you seen any of that be successful?
An exorcism? I haven't partaken in an exorcism personally. I don't know.
Would you?
Sure.
If you had the opportunity.
Sure. It would take a lot of convincing to convince me that that's a real thing.
It's effective.
I don't know. I don't know if it's real.
The fact that he just said yes so like calmly, like yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Why
Now, Chris,
not?
here's my
Let go.
question: in your years of
Fuck
doing
that.
this, have you ever done an investigation where people are seeing or experiencing things and they've moved, and whatever they were experiencing in one location has moved
Follow
with them?
Yes.
Following.
Yes, that's common.
That's common.
People think that they can move and it's going to stop because it is the entity or the spirit, is it tied to your toaster? Is it
tied to you?
Is it tied to you? I like to use this example. I don't know if anybody's seen Paranormal Activity.
No.
That movie. Okay. Here's a pop quiz question. Where does anybody remember where that took place or where in the movie their house was?
San Diego.
Yeah, so I think Carlsbad. So the first thing people Oh, you're thinking Amityville. Yeah. So when people see that movie, the first thing they think is, hold on, this is a brand new housing tract. How is this house so crazy haunted and it's a brand new house?
Right.
Well, that doesn't mean anything. Poltergeist. What was that house?
Native American burial ground. That's
Exactly.
the first thing I think of.
Exactly. What was that house or that building built over? So is it the land? Is it your toaster? Is it you? Is it a rock? Who knows what it is? So it's commonly perceived that you can just pack up your stuff and go. That's not always the case, but sometimes it is. Sometimes it is the case.
What's the what's the railroad story? You told us to remind you.
Oh,
about the
yeah,
railroad.
the railroad story.
The railroad, this ties in railroads or trains and automobiles. Based on the evidence we've collected, this is common at the Brackenford Manor in Lake Arrowhead. The train in San Juan Capistrano, we are finding that when the train barrels by, it's conducting what?
Power, energy.
Electricity. Exactly. So when the train goes by, it's so loud, you can't hear anything. You're just waiting for it to pass. And we have one on YouTube that is really probably one of the most crazy things that odd pieces of audio that came through is the train would just barrel by. It's so loud, the ground is shaking, and you're just so close to the track, and the ground is shaking, especially in the building that we were in. And we didn't hear it at the time. It was impossible. The train was so loud. But on playback, there was a voice, a distinct voice that we can make out the 4 words that were being said over the train. And we've been trying to experiment with the train passing if we can replicate or recreate an opportunity for something to come through.
An anomaly.
Yeah, using the energy of the train, the electricity. We've noticed this with cars passing. And we would leave recorders in the Brackenford Manor. We would have the whole manor to ourselves. We would basically booby trap the whole house with film and with audio, and we would vacate the building. I like to call this settling. And I enjoy listening to audio of settling more than anything because I have a curiosity of what's going on when nobody's around.
Exactly.
And I'm kind of creeped out by that. So those pieces of audio, I will just so intently listen to those. Everything else, certain investigations, I'm just snoozing. I'm barely able to get through it. But listening to what's going on when nobody's around, we noticed that on actually 3 occasions, different days, when a car would pass, and this is right on a road, a car would pass, you'd hear it approaching, it's getting louder, and then it passes, and then it gets, quiets
quieter,
down.
yeah.
Right when it's passing, we got a distinct EVP, electronic voice phenomena, of one of our team members' name being called. That's on YouTube as well. It's right when a car is passing. And ironically, that was a room in a nutshell that he was supposed to sleep in that night. And because of all the crazy things that were happening on that investigation during that evening, I'm not ashamed to admit it. I was pretty freaked out. The things that were happening, I'm like, all right, guys, nobody's sleeping alone tonight. We're gonna partner up. just buddy system. We gotta look out for each other here, okay? Let's
we're gonna form a little ghost train.
Play it safe, right?
Plus, that's half off on the hotel too. So
we already had the whole place. Yeah. So I suggested that we all stay together. So Andrew, the guy whose voice or whose name is called in this audio, he was supposed to stay in that bedroom where the recorder was placed, but nobody was in there. And could it be coincidental? But that was the room that I ended up pulling him out of. Andrew, we're all teaming up. Nobody's sleeping alone. So it was kind of a bummer that he didn't get to sleep in there, but that voice came through and we caught 3 different occurrences of a car passing. So is whatever's there, is it able to utilize that energy?
Passing energy.
Exactly.
Just like tap into it.
Exactly. From the motor of the car. We don't know. It's not a definitive theory, and it is just theory, but we have been able to obtain evidence repeating this scenario.
Wow.
Which is pretty cool.
So what if you got like subwoofers and just put up a lot of bass or frequency that, let's just say in the physical world, right? Air is molecules, and for you to pick it up, it's got to move through the molecular structure, the Maya. So what if you set up that thing to simulate that decibel level or whatever the heck it is?
Synthetically replicate it.
Really set a control, right? Because you don't need the train. What if it was just a speaker just buzzing everything? And
that's a concept, and half of this is being creative and thinking of something that's different, that's outside the box. I don't know. I personally have not really heard of the theory of other people finding this with EVPs, vehicles passing. It's possible others may have picked up on it, but it is something that we internally have been trying to replicate and get enough of that replication to really present it as a plausible theory. I love it. I get really excited when cars pass, and I mean the train in San Juan is the bane of our existence.
Lots of energy. Yeah.
Well, but when it comes to conducting events and tours, it's obnoxious. It's loud and it just ruins everything. But from an investigation standpoint, I mean, it's the greatest thing ever. We can't wait for the train to come. We're like, everybody shut up. We need to listen. People will take photos on the tours. The train passes, take photos of this tree. Let's see if that energy is able to to help manifest something.
Manifest them.
Yeah.
And let me shout out real quick because we are live right now, and there's a lot of people listening on Podbean. And let me just tell you this: that Podbean limits us to 2 hours of broadcasting, and so they are going to shut us down pretty soon. But you can tune into the rest of the show. Basically, we are going to load up all the audio, and you can always watch this live on Facebook.com/Radio Underland. And you can also watch us on YouTube at Radio Underland if you want to catch the whole show in its entirety. But for the Podbean listeners that are listening right now, I can tell you it's going to end, and I think it just ended right now as I was saying that. But other than that, yeah. So Cris, your company is called Orange County Paranormal and Legends, right?
OC Ghosts and Legends.
OC Ghosts and Legends. And if people want to find out more information about you guys and what you do and the tours, where do they go?
They just go to ocghostsandlegends.com. They can find us on all the social medias, the Instagram, OC Ghosts and Legends, Twitter.
And how often do you do these tours? Are these weekly or monthly, or what's the story?
No, we're not a seasonal operation. So as I like to say, ghosts don't just come out on Halloween. So
so we can all come down next weekend or
Anytime.
sometime. We can schedule a tour.
Sure.
And how long does a tour last for?
Depends on the tour. If you're doing a San Juan tour, it's about an hour and a half. Everything is done by levels.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't mean that one is better than the other. It's just depending on the flavor.
Yeah.
But our level one's a downtown ghost walk. You have all those noises, the trains and whatnot. Then you got our Black Star level 2.
I want the Black Star. That's what I want to do.
No, it's just our level 2.
Oh no. Okay. What's the top tier?
Yeah,
What's
what's
that?
top tier? Where a ghost gives me a handy.
Like the Club 33 of the investigation.
Yeah, that one.
Well, our level 3s and 4s are where you participate in investigation. So we call those lockdowns. So those are usually about they're about 4 to 5 hours. And we pretty much have run of the whole location, be it a ship in San Diego, Star of India, Steam Ferry Berkeley. Those are our level 3s. And the difference between level 3 and 4 is a 4 is usually a destination location. So our Brackenford Manor in Arrowhead, we're doing Colossal Cave in just a couple weeks in Arizona. That's a huge one. Those are overnight destinations. So that's really the big difference, but their 3s and 4s are investigations. So we basically provide all the equipment, all the gadgets you can imagine. We run experiments. We don't believe in herding sheep and, shuttling people from room to room.
I was going to say, I think we should do a 2 and then we should roll up to a 4.
No, let's just do a 4 straight to the top.
Head right in.
Don't underestimate the 1s and 2s. Granted, those situations are not as controlled, but we talk a lot about the terminology and the theories of what's happening in these locations, and then you have that knowledge going into the 3s and 4s and knowing what is an EVP, what is EMF, so you're not completely lost in the dark, and we're not just speaking Greek to you. It starts to make sense. So there is an advantage to doing the level.
So they just go to the website, they sign up for a tour, and boom, that's it.
Go to our website.
All right.
We're always announcing new locations. We got a couple announcements coming up for November and December, and we're not just confined to Orange County. We're all over the place.
Did you guys just do the Calico? Is that
No.
you guys? Oh, okay.
No,
I
that's
saw it, OC. Jake told me about OC. I was like, oh damn, where are these guys? Like,
that's our competitor. We won't speak their name.
Oh,
I don't know their names, so I don't give a shit. Okay,
better off.
Well,
You're
I'll
better
tell you
off.
what, Cris, thank you so much for coming in. Cris and his whole company. I mean, it sounds like some fun stuff. I think, dude, we need to do this close to
I'm
Halloween,
down.
Tom.
Anytime.
I'm
We
down.
need to do it.
Sign
Who
me
all's
up.
down?
Take my money.
Yeah?
I'm in.
hey, we can do it in Boyle Heights. There's the insane asylum.
Heck yeah.
Oh yeah,
So
I'm
down
down.
for that.
I'm down. I'll break in. I don't give a shit. Yeah,
You lost me there.
He's still-
at Insane Asylum.
we have
Yeah,
not.
I don't know about that.
No, hospitals are pretty difficult to get into.
Yeah. So we've been talking to Cris August. He's a paranormal researcher, and he's with OC. Say it
Ghosts
again?
and Legends.
OC Ghosts and Legends. And that was a very interesting conversation. And thank you so much for driving out here tonight and talking
Yeah,
to
my
us.
pleasure.
That was awesome. And I think for real, we need to get one of these ghost tours going.
Yeah, hell yeah.
We need to do this.
Anytime. You're
Hell yeah.
welcome.
We need to do this. Missy, you're not down at all? You're not going to do it? No? Yeah, we know exactly how you're gonna act. You're gonna act like it's our
Chris,
anniversary.
and you'll have
at
to come
Oktoberfest.
back and hang out with us again and tell us.
I
some
love it.
more,
You guys were a lot of fun. I actually appreciated the discussion. You know, I'm not opposed to countering opinions. I mean,
Yeah, I don't have,
It's-
but I don't
yeah.
have. I'm kind of open to everything. I mean, when it comes to supernatural stuff, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what comes after we. I just don't know. But I'm open to it. I've seen some crazy shit.
yeah.
You know,
that's the fun of it.
I've seen a female that has gotten the stigmata, and I've seen her hand before.
Mhm.
I've seen it when it was bleeding, and I saw it afterwards. I've seen some crazy shit,
Sure.
crazy shit that's not explainable in our natural realm.
Yep.
So you know, I'm definitely open. I don't know.
Yeah.
And I think all of us don't know.
Nobody knows.
It's all an investigation into the supernatural.
That's it. We may never find the answers anytime soon. But
No, maybe
that's-
not.
That's the joy.
Not until
is to
you
explore it.
die.
But that was an excellent conversation. I enjoyed having you here, Chris.
Awesome. Thank you so
And
much.
best of luck. And get some of these motherfuckers on video, man. I want to watch this shit.
That's the
but
plan.
What you said? What's the YouTube channel? But you have some audio up there and stuff.
OC Ghosts and Legends. So YouTube.
OC Ghosts and Legends on YouTube. All right,
On
man.
all the social medias.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Chris, for coming out. That was a
Thank you.
great conversation, and we were talking about some ghosts, Chris. So that was a good time. Thank you so much for taking the time and driving out here and spending some time with us.
My
Thank you
pleasure.
very much.
Thank you for having me.
Well, Tom, what do you think there, man?
I don't know. I think we need to go on a ghost hunt. I'm
Steph,
down.
are you down for a ghost hunt? Steph,
You know, that
you're
sounds
you're,
like
you're a little hesitant.
it sounds, because the black guy usually dies first.
There is a
No,
fel-
and that's exactly
that's
why I
why-
want.
that's why we want you to go.
You know,
That's why I
so
want you to go.
If the black guy doesn't go, then he's
You're my
probably way more
supernatural
safe.
buffer, Steph.
Yeah.
You know, well, I mean, can we find some other black people that listen to the show?
Somebody at least blacker than me.
We need.
We'll bring Charles.
Now
Yeah,
we're
we got
talking.
Charles. Charles is
Charles.
like
Yeah.
Wesley Snipes black, dude. He's definitely going to be the first to go.
Well, I don't know.
Okay. So, anyways, well, we've been going, Tom. We've already been going for 2 hours. Are we ready to wrap this up? I mean,
think so.
there's been a lot of crazy news, but do we really need to hit it tonight? I don't think
No.
so.
After
No?
hours.
We
Get
can
those
rock.
pot
No,
wings.
after hours. Are we gonna do an after hours show, Tom? Are we gonna wrap this up and then come back and talk about this shit again?
Why
No?
not?
All right. Well, I'll tell
People
you
like
what.
that. We can wrap up and then come back.
Yeah.
The
well,
show after the show.
Take a break and
Show
Fuck
after
that,
the
they have
show.
to pay for my time.
I gotta pee
Yeah,
though.
well, you
I gotta
gotta
pee
pee.
first.
Well, everybody else left and peed during the show. Steph
Yeah,
left
see,
and peed.
I
Missy
just
left and
want to
peed.
point out that I was the one lone trooper that gutted it out. I
You
may
were,
have a
you
urinary
were.
tract infection now, but I did not move from my post.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll tell you what. This is Radio Underland. You can definitely subscribe to us on all the social media platforms, from Instagram to whatever. Just look for Radio Underland. If you would like to throw us a couple dollars, which I know you're not going to do it because you all are a bunch of cheap bastards, but you can
That's a way
definitely do
to get
that on Patreon.com/Radio Underland. And other than that, are we going to take a break and come back?
We can. We got to thank Eric too for rolling out.
Yeah, man. Eric, Three Gooey's Brewery.
Come on, say it.
Tres,
Ooey gooey, man.
Tres Weas. Tres
Yeah.
Tres Weas Brewing Company out of Boyle Heights. And yeah, you guys, we're gonna have a party out there in Boyle Heights. This is the
Fuck
second
yeah,
they
man.
get that place open,
Hey,
man.
you married into Boyle Heights.
Yeah, I
just
know I
wanted to let
did.
you know.
I know I did.
Point.
I married into Boyle Heights. I'm scared every time I go there. So, but other than that, this is Radio Underland. Thank you guys for tuning in tonight. We've had a lot of fun, and we might be back in a couple seconds. I don't know, but I'll tell you what. Right now, we're gonna wrap this up, and we're gonna play some music. And Tom has to go pee.
Yep.
As soon as I can find this. Okay, there it is. I found it, and we are up. All right, guys.
Good night,
See you next
everybody.
week. Take it easy.
Can you put your hands together for tonight like this? Come on. Clap your hands out this y'all. Clap your hands out this y'all. Hey. Come on. Woo. Y'all sing on it one time.